has a next step. It's important that we not only attend church, but we are involved in serving at church. This is the mission statement of Next Steps Director Tim Moza.
I'm Tim Moza. I'm the Director of Next Steps here at Dream City Church. One of the amazing things that my department does is the Next Steps Growth Track. Now, this is a 4-week discipleship journey that really takes people on a journey of discovering Dream City Church and how they fit in the church. Now, during it, we discover how you can become part of the core. Now, the core of Dream City Church are people who are actively serving, actively in community, and they have embraced the mission, the vision, and the values of Dream City Church and made it their own. Now, there's 2 action steps on the backside. There's many things you can do as your next step, but the 2 that we really focus on are getting into a serving group, a ministry group where you can use your gifts that God has gifted you with to serve the church and those around you, and also get in the groups. Now, there's this issue we see in modern day Christianity, which I would like to call consumer Christianity. Now, this is where people come to church every Sunday and their faith is built on attending a service and leaving and never really actually applying what they're learning. And as pastors, our goal isn't to actually just see people know the word, but it's actually to know and apply the word, right? So we want to see people get out of their comfort zone and begin to serve. And secondly is the groups. So with community, we try to have every single person at church in some type of community, whether this is a serving group or it's a community group outside of the church, or maybe it's at church. But what we see is that in school, like high school, middle school, we're naturally in community with other people, whether they're believers or not. And this community is just crucial to our being. You know, man is not meant to be alone, right? Well, we see that once you get into the workplace and such, that the workplace and being in a cubicle next to somebody, that's not community. And we need more than that we were made to have more than that. So right now we will be doing fusion groups, which will help us to have people who have yet to really experience this community finally experience what Christian community truly looks like. So after our Wednesday services, we're gonna have a shortened service, and we'll be going to be fusing the worship service and groups together. So they'll worship for 15 minutes, hear a message for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we're gonna break off and we're gonna have everybody splitting up in their groups. Now, these aren't huge groups. They're gonna be anywhere between 3 and 8 people meeting. But in these groups, you're gonna be able to discuss what the message is and then also discuss how to apply it. And again, this is not consumer Christianity that we're trying to do. We don't want to just have them hear the word, we want them to apply it and apply it to their lives. And this takes discussion, this takes building a relationship with those around them. And we really believe that when people finally experience this community with those around them, that they will fall in love with it and they will be able to grow better, be just more effective Christians in their faith, and ultimately just live happier lives.
Well, today we get to interview Tim Moza, the Next Steps Director at Dream City Church. Thanks for being here, Tim.
Happy to be here.
So Tim, you are part of the Next Steps program, and that has a lot of facets to it. It has groups, small groups, Bible studies, Next Step Growth Track, newcomers to Dream City. And can you explain a little bit about all that Next Steps ministry does in a church?
Yes, you're right. Next Steps is really a wide range of things. But to keep it simple, it's really just helping people continue on or start and ultimately keep that journey going of their faith at Dream City Church. So what we're doing is we're connecting people to different ministries, wherever it may be. We're connecting people to different groups and serving opportunities, helping them just fulfill the call of God on their life.
That is awesome. So you guys lead a Next Steps Growth Track class every single week. Not every single week, but you have periods where you guys do that. And I loved what you taught in this class one time about the importance of being a core member of the church, right? Like you can be a congregation member, but becoming a core member is where you really see that life change. Can you talk about the importance of serving and getting involved in a church?
Yeah, and for me, it's really been on my heart for many years because as I grew up in church, I had all these friends who, you know, whether they give their life to Christ once or they were Christians for many years, but when hard times came, they really didn't have a foundation. And it's that next steps that really help build that foundation, right? So when they're going through this class, they see that you can be a congregation member where you just show up, or you can be a part of the core where you're serving, you're in community, you're helping to lead people. And the people who would fall off were the ones who weren't really fulfilled in their walk with Christ, because there's a difference between receiving God, but also showing that to others. And it's when we actually walk out our call And we are that core because we're serving the church, we're serving other people, we're using what we have received in that gift of grace, and we're reflecting that to others. They are fulfilled,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. In your own life, I know this is true because there was probably a season of your life where you just attended, and then there was a season where you stepped into that core group of a church. And there's probably a lot of people who are watching today who watch church online, they attend church once in a while, maybe go on Easter Sunday. But what is the impact on their life that they will have if they decide to really become a part of the community?
Right. So let me talk a little bit about what happened in my story. So I was in church since I was young, and I didn't get called into ministry until about a little over 3 years ago.
Wow.
Or 3 years ago I started my ministry. I got called about 4 years ago. And before that I was in church. I was even a youth leader. I was fairly involved, but I was doing other things in my life. I was working on becoming a personal trainer. So I started training people. I was doing bodybuilding competitions. And what I realized is, I wasn't part of the core because my involvement was strictly just checking something off a list, but I really wasn't, as there as I should have been. So as I continued doing this, I realized that my identity wasn't found in God.
Yeah.
That my identity was found in what I was putting my hands to most, and that was, doing bodybuilding and training, all this kind of stuff. And I was searching to find my identity in something other than God. So for me, my next step was finally discovering that, I'm called to more than that, and I wasn't fulfilled. And it really, when you don't take these next steps, you're not part of that true core. You really lose, what Christianity is meant to be, and it's meant to be, a purpose-filled life.
Yes.
Jesus said he came to give us a life and a life of abundance. But we'll never experience a life of abundance if we're just, on the congregation, just seeing Christianity as attending on a Sunday.
Right.
But when we finally start to just fulfill our call and serve in the capacity we're called to, using our spiritual gifts, another thing we talk about in the Next Steps growth track, that we're able to actually walk out our faith in fullness.
Yes. And something that's also not often talked about is the community, right? Like how lonely, I'm a part of a church community, and sometimes I wonder how people get through hard times in life without a church community.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about Next Steps is it's totally a community builder. And I see these people who volunteer in different areas at the church and have this camaraderie. Can you tell us about the different communities?
Yeah, so I love the Next Steps growth track, how this all starts, because during the growth track, they're actually in a table with each other. And throughout each class, they're breaking up and talking about these things. And what we'll see is that the people in the group together at those tables will remain in groups together over the next years as
Wow.
they leave, because they've got so used to that community. It's really easy when we're younger, when we're in youth group or we're in school, we have all these friends around us and we're surrounded. You go through hard times. Even if you don't have many friends, you still have a few core people. But as we get older, we kind of leave that natural connection tool like school and children's ministry, whether you're in church or not. And you go through hard times and you realize that, well, now you're alone. And if you don't purposefully seek out community, that you're not going to have it. And we see that what's so amazing about these groups is it's the first line of pastoral care. That when someone goes through something, they go to their group leaders, they go to fellow group members, and they're there for them. That, Pastor Luke can't just get on a phone and know what's going on in every person's life, right? He would love to, but he can't. And it's those group leaders that he has empowered to be able to do that, to be able to walk alongside with people, And what's the one thing that God said was not good after creation? It was that man was alone. Because we weren't meant to walk alone. We're meant to walk with people. Right. And that's what community does for us. It gives us someone to walk along with.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much for being here. I think there's nothing that will bring people more hope than being with other people.
I agree.
Than having a community to fall to when life's biggest troubles hit. And it hits for everybody at some point. So why not have a community? Well, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, if you want to be a part of a church who is ready to plug you into a community, to have friends that you can link arms with and become part of a core community of a church, Dream City wants you there. So go to dreamcitychurch.us and click the Next Steps tab to find out how you can get involved.